Welcome back to the Guitar Hour, guys. We are back, finally, I think the first stream of 2016.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Sorry we've been gone so long. This is actually a kind of transition stream, because you might notice that we have a new logo. How do I point to it? It's down by Dave's crotch. It's just covering up. Dave's actually wearing crotchless trousers, so we've had to cover him up with the Guitar Hour. We've got a new logo. And basically what we're doing is in February, so in fact there's only one more day of January, so at some point in February we're going to relaunch the stream, and we're going to we've redesigned everything. We sat down before Christmas and had a curry, which is always the best way to kind of get the brain juices flowing, a fairly epic curry. Yep, and some beers, and we sat down and we, for the first time in my entire life, I did a brainstorming session. And you are just the king of brainstorming. It was amazing. Dave's Mr. Creative. So we've come up with loads of great things. And basically we're going to change the format of the show a little bit. We're going to have themed shows, which we kind of did before, but they're going to be far more planned out. We're going to have certain sections for the show. We're not launching these today. This is just to keep you guys informed of what's going on. We wanted to let you know. And we've got kind of a topic for today as well. And we are going to be having guests on, so we're doing seasons. I think we agreed there were going to be maybe 6 shows to a season.
6 shows in each season, yeah.
So 6 shows to a season. The final show of each season is going to have a special guest on, and we're talking big names. We're not talking like, you know, one of our mates from around the corner, which would be cool, but big names. We already have one of our big names, and this guy is, I'm not going to tell you who he is, but he's one of the biggest names in the jazz scene at the moment. Just mind-blowingly good. And we have some cool stuff lined up with him in the future. What month was that going to be?
That won't be filmed until May, so
May.
it'll probably be at
Back end of the...
Yeah, so maybe the second season, or but we have some great guests lined up. We've got some good stuff for the end of this season. I've got some interviews that I've already filmed that we need to play for you. One in particular with John Gom that was done a while ago that you guys need to see. It's hilarious. John is just a funny guy and some incredible playing. So we're going to relaunch in February. We've already got better video quality. We'll hopefully have better audio quality as well. Please let us know if the audio quality is better. It should be. And also, just one thing to watch out for. I'm actually using a battery-powered mic, so please let us know if the sound disappears, because I need to switch back to an alternative mic. But I can't see the battery indicator, and I'm stupid, and I forgot to buy separate batteries. So please let me know if that disappears. I'm sure you will. But apart from that, welcome back. Joined, as usual, by Mr. David Beebe.
Hello.
Sandmyth.
Hello.
Dan Smith. And Mr. Dave Bronze. Crammed into my tiny little studio. It's going to get very warm in here. So, as usual, guys, join in the chat. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, either now or in future episodes. As I say, these are going to be in seasons, so we've got 6 of them, 6 episodes lined up for the first season, which we're going to plan out extensively for you. So if you've got particular topics you'd like us to talk about or incorporate into a season, this show is for you. Please use the chat. And the usual thing's going to apply. These are going to stay on Twitch for a while, and then they're going to be uploaded to YouTube almost immediately after the show is finished. We may not end up doing an hour today, because this is an intermediate kind of stream in between relaunching. This is not our official relaunch, otherwise we'd have more fanfare. And we may even have jazz hands. We may even have a theme tune, possibly, the next time you see us. And posh transitions and all sorts of things. We're going pro. Just because we like the stream, and it's staying free for you guys as well, as usual. So we've got a few things to talk about before we get started. I'm going to head straight over to Dan, because Dan has had an interesting couple of days. I think what he considers to be a stressful couple of days, and he'll tell you why. But Dan recently has become a full signed up member of the Lick Library team, filming a couple of DVDs. I'll tell you what they are. We probably don't have release dates for them yet, but they'll be released fairly soon. They're going to be absolutely awesome. So over to Dan.
Yeah, so I was down at Lick Library Wednesday, Thursday. We had to do the drive from Manchester to Essex, which is always fun.
Romford.
Romford. Filming 2 DVDs, although one of them it might end up being a web thing. We're not too sure yet. It might end up getting split up. But.
Well, they'll all be online as well. They'll all be streaming.
Yeah.
So they'll be streamable or buyable, purchasable physical DVDs.
So the first one was 51 Western Swing Licks, which 51 is a lot.
Yep.
And the other one was swing rhythm guitar. So it was 2 days. The first day I decided to do the lick one first, just because the workload for that is just
monumental.
Yeah, and obviously that's a bit more because it's numerical. You can see a bit more progress, and you kind of know where you're up to with that one. Whereas the other ones, it's kind of like
that's the thing, isn't it? 51 licks doesn't sound like a lot, but 51 licks is a huge.
It doesn't sound a lot when you think, oh, like if you think about your entire playing career or whatever, you think, oh, 51 licks, that's not that much. I'll probably play 51 licks in a gig, and you're like. It's not when you try and write them down and go, this is specifically, and they've all got a fit of one backing track as well, which is, you know, the once you're gonna get it fenced into this sort of brief and this project, it's not as easy as it sounds.
You've got like a play 51 licks over that.
Well, yeah, that's why I had the track went through like 3 different progressions because
genius actually.
Yeah, the Western swing tunes generally don't have a lot of chords in them. They're like 2 or 3 chord songs, so
yep.
I kind of had 3 standard progressions and then like a little turnaround sort of bolted onto the end, so that there's quite a lot to get through. And it went all right. I mean, by the end of it, you end up just once you get into the 30s, it's sort of not even about being a guitar player anymore. You're just like looking at your
it's about survival.
Looking at your fingers and going, what string are we on and what number is that fret? And it's just you sort of glaze over. I couldn't really tell you what happened in there, to be honest.
There's
like
a stamina element
butterfly
involved,
effect,
isn't
where
there?
you just
I mean, if you imagine, say your first lick, you know, whatever it is, say that's your lick, and you've got to teach that lick, and you have to slow it down and play. Okay, first finger on G3, slide into G4, second finger on G5.
Yeah,
You've got to go through it like that for 51 licks.
I mean, and a lot of them were quite short as well, but I mean, still, it's pretty relentless. And the thing is, as well, is because you're doing it in those conditions, you've got 3 cameras, you've got a cameraman, you're on someone else's time. It's not the same as if you were putting it together at home. Then the only person that's on the clock, then it's just you and your own time and space. So if for whatever reason that day it's not going well or whatever, you might go, oh, I'm going to walk away from this, I'll do it tomorrow. And you can do as many takes as you want, and it's not a big deal because it's just you. When you've got a guy there and you know you're taking up, you know, the studio time. If you were in there, someone else could be doing something more productive.
And it's your first shoot and you're trying to make a good impression and you're thinking, I'm only 32 licks in.
And the thing is, because I just wrote them and numbered them, but then I changed that. I just sort of kind of threw them all down and then put an order to them and didn't bother changing the numbers again. So I had to keep asking Mike what number it was in between every lick. There's only so many ways you can say that was lick 32. Let's take a look at number 33.
So
try to say let's take a look at lick whatever. Try and say that under pressure. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Really, really difficult. So what kind of like people? Because a lot of people will know the kind of playing that you do. What kind of stuff? If you're looking at lead stuff, because I always think of like.
Yeah.
It's that kind of bouncy rhythm playing, but like the kind of things. I'm doing the interview again that Mike did. What kind of techniques are in this DVD?
Yeah,
Dan?
I hated that. That's the bit that took more time than anything else.
But on a general sense, if anybody's interested in the DVDs, which you should be, because from a vocabulary perspective, actually, this is kind of important. For the guys that are wanting to play and get into playing over changes, which is kind of a big thing these days for guitar players, that DVD is probably a really nice way of getting into it because...
Well, because it's quite early in the sort of swing jazz kind of era. The harmony's not that complicated.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not that easy either. To play, I mean, we've had this conversation before. To kind of play over it convincingly.
Yeah.
You don't really get any altered stuff. You don't really get any melodic minor stuff, but you do get sort of whole tone kind of sounds and
it's
diminished
good for your
sounds.
ears, isn't it? Because the chord changes are outlined really, really distinctly.
Yeah, it's very literate. It's very literal kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's very it outlines, you know, what's going on quite obviously, you know.
And from a technique perspective, actually, there's probably some stuff in there which is pretty hard to pull off. It's not straightforward.
There's a lot of like arpeggio sort of stuff. I mean, there's a lick that I transcribed. I didn't put it in there because I can't play it. But the speed that the guy picks it at is ridiculous. But there's a couple of things where it's sort of like got there.
Now this is. Would you mind just? I know it's going to be on the DVD, but it's a good taster. This lick.
It's a lot slower than that.
So I do this thing, and we're kind of getting off topic here, but that's why I'm on the guitar out. So I'll play like Rick Graham and I did this a lot. We kind of had this very similar way of doing it, and Dan's going to show you a different way of doing it, which I actually can't do. So I do this a lot. So if you've got the 5th fret on the G string and the 7th fret on the D, I'll go middle finger, and then I'll go up, down. And you can do it with triads. Well, you can if I catch it. So you get that doubled note. So it's middle, up, down. Dan's is weird. What's yours? It's really
It's
odd.
the same as if you were. It's between 2 strings. It's the same as if you're alternate picking it all. You'd go down, up, down, up. But instead of the second up, I'm just doing
So it's down, middle, down, up, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing
The
basically.
temptation would be to go and go down, middle, up, down. But then it's weird to get back on the 1.
That makes more sense to me actually than your way.
Than doing it up,
Yeah.
down.
How do you
Because-
do it?
Right, well, what I'm doing wouldn't work for that because
Oh, okay.
I would be going. I'm out of tune, by the way. I've just realised I'm horribly flat. Sorry, people. So,
middle, down, up.
So you're just replacing that second.
Yeah,
with
instead
with
of
a
going
hybrid
down,
in the
changing
beginning.
string and picking up.
it just feels totally horrible to me.
I can't do either two ways, to be honest. Yeah, I feel like I want to go for an upstroke.
Just if in doubt, just tap your way out of it.
I did that one. Yeah.
But from a technical perspective, obviously
It's the same thing.
not all the licks are that difficult. I mean, that's pretty extreme, actually. Like, are you playing it that quick on the?
No. It's like.
So it's
There's
still
actually one
fairly
that is
quick,
like
but-
full Dolly Parton that just goes.
Funnily enough, I was going to say as the tagline for like buying the DVD, you too could get to play with Dolly Parton, but you've not played with
I
her. have
thought
you?
like
But it means
going
something
fully
else.
Dolly Parton was meaning that's like really going for it.
I was making,
It's got full
I
part.
was-
Oh, that was awesome, Nick. Yeah, fully Dolly
I was
Parton.
making a dirty joke. But never mind.
I'm trying to think what the most difficult one was. Is that one? Is that one?
So I mean,
There's
from a
like lot
technical
of, like, wide
perspective,
sort of 6 things that I tried to put in there.
so
Like,
from a technical perspective, there's a lot for people to get their teeth into. It's not. I would imagine it ranges the gamut from kind of fairly straightforward, just picked arpeggios up to.
there's some really like simple like. That's like probably the easiest one on there.
But again, vocabulary.
Yeah, and then there's the.
Yeah, that's not easy.
That's nice.
That's like towards the top end somewhere. There's a very.
So musical though. So musical.
I think that's one of them as well.
So I mean, keep your eyes peeled for it. We don't know when it's going to be out because he ended filming it on.
Thursday. I did
On Thursday.
43 licks the first day, and then
Which is
Mike
impressive.
kind of knows when to call it a day. He's like,
Mike's the cameraman,
we had
by the way,
like
guys.
20 minutes left or something, and he's like, should just call it a day because he knows when your brain is just gone.
Mike is the long-suffering cameraman at Lick Library who, imagine you're a non-guitar player and somebody's sat there that are explaining 7 different ways of fingering the Super Locrian scale for 2 hours, and you know, you can imagine Mike gets a lot of sleep. He doesn't really. I shouldn't say that in case someone watches it and he gets fired. Mike's epic, he's a brilliant guy, but you know, as a non-guitar player, that job must be...
It is tough as well because like this, the rhythm DVD, it got to points and I'm just kind of sat there thinking, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Because there's nobody in there, it's just you.
Yeah, there's
And,
no
Mike's just in there.
director or
He's just
filter,
making
yeah.
sure you don't, you don't sort of pass out or you don't like swear or whatever.
Well, you're basically watching each other, making sure he doesn't
Yeah,
pass
yeah.
out.
It's
So
like your
if you
buddies
both
just
pass
stand
out.
up, doing like riding.
Send up a flare. And
So,
think,
well,
shit.
we recorded the backing tracks at my house, and just the backing tracks alone and the comping that Dan's doing. So he done the comping lap steel was just a joy. Like
There's a video-
at my house. It's like so just the backing tracks. was so cool.
You've got a video online, haven't you? Of
Yeah, I put a video on my
Download some slide.
Facebook. Yeah, just the slide, but I didn't think to record the comping, but the comping was awesome.
There's a couple of like comping. I think there's like 2 to get through that progression, but they're like. I think the other ones.
Dan doesn't know this, but at NAMM this year, I'm going to talk about NAMM a little bit in a minute. But VGA were playing your videos of you playing the fretless at NAMM this year.
Oh,
so
really?
in a way, like spiritually, you were at NAMM this year.
What, on like a TV screen?
Yeah, there was a TV screen.
Yeah.
Dan
I'll say
was
that.
playing a white fretless, doing all that kind of stuff. Now, the reason that's kind of impressive is because you guys probably already figured this out, but on a fretless, obviously there's no frets, so you don't know where to put your fingers. You just have to kind of guess. And all of Dan's chords were in tune, all of them. And like, imagine if you're... There's a lot of stuff that could go wrong tuning-wise in that. You know, imagine trying to do that on a violin. And it was all perfectly in tune.
The only
Some kind
bit-
of weird
I think we're
intonation
trying to go-
machine.
Trying to go, because trying to do that
Yeah.
is really hard on a fretless, but I think everything other than that.
Be cool if you
pretty
slid
lucky
into
with.
everything
So
from
when
it.
are you going to start playing fretless guitar?
I don't know, Levi was like trying to get me to buy one.
Yeah, you did think about it for a minute, didn't you? Yeah.
I'll just give me any of your guitars, man. I'll make a fretless. Nothing that a bit of car body filler and a pair of pliers won't fix.
A few beers and rip
That's
with your
it.
teeth.
Just give me your favourite guitar.
So those are Dan's DVDs. Just remind me the name. So 51 Western Swing Licks.
Yeah, and then swing rhythm guitar.
Swing rhythm
split
guitar.
into like 5 parts. First 3 are sort of Freddie Green 2-note, 1-note things, and then combining them. The fourth one is just kind of little 3-note, like. That kind of stuff.
I love it.
And then the fifth one is full on. It's just basic. There's all that
Who
kind
wouldn't
of
want to
shit.
play that? It's ridiculously good.
What's really, really cool is, am I right in thinking that the DVD is quite kind of trailblazing? Because nothing really much out there on that style you're doing.
There's. I've only really seen.
That's why you're supposed to
With
say
his-
no, Dan.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
no,
one,
we know
one
that.
guy.
I'm
There's
No.
one guy.
Yeah, so
His
there's
name's
only,
Dan Smith.
His
It's
name's
called,
Dan
it's called Whit Smith, isn't it?
Oh, keep it in the family, Dan.
That's,
yeah. I think
that's
it's pretty
awesome.
much him, and then
I
I've
think
seen
it's
one
so
other guy
cool.
that sort of does like similar to what you do on his own website, and he does that kind of that sort of era, but he does a lot of old, you know, that kind of what do you call it? You know, that kind of blues that's not, it's not quite sort of standard, but it's not full on sort of jazz. It's that bit in the middle. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
playing jazz blueses, but not really. They're not. It's not like loads of really super sophisticated stuff, but it's
Yeah.
like rhythmically really good. And
Mhm.
I think it's called like jump blues or something, but he does that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay.
Can't
Well, we
remember.
don't know. We don't want to know his name. I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, they should be out.
I mean, in the
fairly
UK,
soon.
definitely. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Dan's a UK pioneer. Okay. One other quick thing as well. We have a couple of other new guys that are doing some stuff for Lick Library, and you're going to be hearing about them fairly soon. Both phenomenal players, incredibly good rock players, but with a lot of knowledge as well. So keep your eyes peeled for all that stuff. I've kind of been arranging some players for YouTube, so there's some for Lick Library. So there's some exciting stuff coming up. So that's what Dan's been doing. Dave's been unbelievably prolific, but I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that. But we're going to kind of get into that later, actually.
yeah.
And I've just got back from NAMM, so I'm still a little bit jet lagged. NAMM was amazing this year, absolutely fantastic. Spent most of it hanging out with the Fibonacci guys, which was just hilarious because they're a bunch of nutcases in the best possible way. Martin and I did a small gig on the Friday, which was really great. Now the good thing about that is, for you guys, that whole thing was recorded by Mr. Laurie Monk. Ignore the clapping, guys. Unfortunately, if you just followed the stream, I can't, for some reason, and I think it's my fault, I can't see the name of the user who's just followed us. So whoever that was, thank you so much for following us. And you did get the round of applause. So yeah, on the Friday, Martin and I recorded probably a 2-hour gig, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And Laurie Monk, the bastion of all things internet guitar related, just an amazing guy for the community, filmed it all on a really, really nice video camera. And I think he's probably going to release all of that to us, or he's going to upload it to his YouTube channel, so you get to see everything. The only tune you won't get to see, what have you just done?
He's playing in my head.
The only thing you won't be able to see is the last tune, which was a tune by Pat Metheny called Travels. Now, you're welcome to see Martin's solo and the intro, but I had a complete brain fart in my solo and ended up for about 7 or 8 bars being a semitone too high. Just general jet lag nastiness. So it does happen. So you won't get to see that. Or maybe I'll just put it up online and you guys can see me epically fail at
I was
something.
doing that yesterday.
It should be fun.
Because my brain was just hammered from driving back from Essex the night before. Yesterday's gig was just bad.
It's good. It's kind of like I've reached the point where it's just funny when that happens, and if I do release it, you'll see on the video I just laugh. There's no point getting worried about that at all. And it was in front of an audience of fairly hardcore guitar players. If you guys know, Per Nielsen from Scar Symmetry?
Yeah.
So Per sat on a chair just here, right in front of me. So it was quite an intense kind of guitar audience, and lots of good jazz players there. But it was really good fun. So you guys will get to see that. Apart from that, lots of cool things. I hooked up with Daniel from the Gig Rig, who makes the G2. We're going to hopefully do a little bit of stuff together. Daniel's going to make me a pedal board, which is going to be super exciting. I have to just decide what I want on it, so we've got to organise that. Various other things. Played at Laney. There's a really fun video that's going to go up, which basically was Martin and my dream? Anyway, grammar. Where Andy Timmons is watching us play, and if you know anything about Andy Timmons, you know that he's just a freak show on the guitar, just incredible. And to play in front of Andy Timmons was an absolute honour, and I think he enjoyed it. So
there's pictures of him smiling.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. So you guys will at some point, Laney will release the footage of that to me, and you guys will get to see that as well. So that was kind of cool. Now, just a quick thing before we move on to the topic for today. One thing we are absolutely going to try and do, because people have been talking about this a lot, and when we get random people joining the stream from Twitch, because obviously on Twitch anybody can join the stream, people have been like, why are you not playing? This is the guitar hour, do some playing. Dan and I used to do a lot of playing in the stream, but since we got 4 of us, it got a little bit more complicated. But we are going to schedule in playing for every single guitar hour when we relaunch it in February. So we're going to do, like maybe Dave and I will play one of his tunes, or we'll have a 4-way jam. I believe, although this is entirely down to Dave, that every intro will involve
So I've composed a little 4-part harmony tune, and there's going to be a section where we all do a short improvisation, then join back for the 4-part harmony finish. It's only about 20 seconds long, but it'll be the improvised part will be different every
My
week.
bit goes like this. That's it. That's all I get to do.
So it's just a bit of fun just to introduce the show. So, but like the idea is, on The Simpsons where they have some bits that are the same on each episode, and there's always the couch bit. Hopefully it'll be different improvisation every week.
Excellent. So that's going to be. We've heard it and it sounds great. Dave is just a fantastic composer, as I'm sure you know if you've heard his album. So let's get into the main meat and potatoes of today's session, which Dave is going to introduce, if that's all right.
Yeah, so the main thing, sort of thinking about 2016, I don't know about you guys, but we've probably already passed the stage where your New Year's resolutions, you've stopped doing them or whatever. So
Already given up.
You're already given up. So I was kind of thinking about what are the key things, like just looking back at last year, 2015, trying to think what are the key things on being successful in both career stuff, playing stuff, and just general life stuff. And I think the key thing I've been thinking about is about doing less rather than doing more. So I don't mean like doing less and being lazy, but I mean like, because we all do loads of good stuff, but just picking like stuff that's really great and doing less of the stuff that's good or okay. So I'll give you a little example of that. So for example, in practicing, obviously in guitar, practicing terms, you could practice. There's so much to learn. So personally, what I've done is I've narrowed down just to one goal this year, and that is I want to be able to play sort of swinging triplets at about 250 BPM, sort of like like a boogie style stuff. So I've started working that and really, and I just do like 10 minutes, 10-20 minutes a day with the metronome, and I do like where it starts off at about 120 and speeds up, and I try and get a bit higher each day. But that's my only sort of technical improvement goal, and already just by narrowing it down to that, I'm finding that I'm getting really good results because already.
What's interesting as far as sort of, with Dave describing that, the thing you've got to remember, or not remember, but the thing you've got to think about with Dave is Dave's got 2 kids as well and a family, and Dave is also in line for a Father of the Year award every year running. I mean, I'm not wrong, am I?
Father's
Pretty
resistance.
epic dad. So it's not like you are practicing hours and hours a day. So the thing I found really interesting there was you were talking about 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a lot of time, but you've seen a lot of progress, haven't you?
So the key to it has been changing my perspective on practicing and being really focused on what I'm trying to get out of the session. So I've narrowed it down to I'm not looking to play through loads of key changes. I've just really focused on my picking and my time feel, and so it's a really narrow thing, but it's really easy to then feel the gains, and then as soon as you spot a problem, you can really work on that. So the way I do it is, because the practice session is always about 20 minutes long, then I do it first thing between the kids having breakfast and driving them to school. The great thing for me is, because it is such a specific goal, I can do that every day.
Yeah.
And it's done. And then if I get any extra practice in, then it's an absolute bonus. So like, if I want to, because my main deal is writing music really. So that's my technical goal. The my sort of professional goal, if you like, is to put a tour on. So I'm just focusing at doing, and I've set a number of gigs I want to get booked to do, and everyone's saying solo instrumental guitar tour, you must be crazy, it's not possible. So I've sort of set myself a challenge, so I'm sort of plugging away at that. And then my third target is to write all the material for album number 2, with a view to trying to get it released early 2017. So every week, like, my focus is, no matter what I do, I'm going to sit down and write music. And so far I've compiled about enough for 14 tracks, which is, I say that, I'm bragging. So
I'm disgusted by that, Dave.
So and here's the little bit of wisdom I've learned, and I learned this from running. So my thing is, I try and run 3 times a week, right? And when it's raining, you can't be bothered, and you think, I haven't got enough time to do a proper 45-minute run through the countryside, listen to podcasts. The one bit of wisdom I've learned is, don't say, oh well, so I won't do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. Because what happens is, even if you can go out and you can only run round the block for 3 minutes, it's better to do that,
right?
Than, because you just
Not
get
at
into
all.
the not at all, because you keep in the vibe. So the same thing with the practicing, it applies to everything. Even if you've only got like 5 minutes to practice, if you have that concentrated thing that you want to focus on, you're just staying in that attitude, and and that helps you keep it up.
I'm trying to concentrate really hard, but there's something what's that trying to get in the door?
Might be an
I
animal.
just want to open the door a second, Dan. Sorry, Dave, continue.
What was a cat?
Oh, right, it's the cat, sorry.
So I guess I don't know what you guys think about that, but just really zoning in on what you want to achieve, and then and with the music writing thing, it's the same thing. Even if I don't write anything epic, or I haven't got a great idea, I sit down on a Wednesday and I do like hour, 2 hours, just trying to come up with ideas. And just once you get in that mindset, I'm just finding already that the discipline of having like that focus and that regularity is really helping me move on.
I've got to be honest, I have very, very little discipline in general. I have to work really hard to, like, I bought the whiteboard. What does that say? No drinking, eat better. It's got nothing to do with, and then there's beer here. Although the times I've made the most progress as far as this instrument is concerned has been the times where I do exactly what you've just said, which is basically limit myself. Not necessarily intentionally at the time, although I like the fact that you're now thinking about it as a new way of practicing.
Yeah.
Just limiting myself to very small things, because these days when I sit down and practice, what I'll usually do is, let's say I'm practicing a certain standard or something, I'll record the chords in to Cubase or whatever, because I don't want to use a backing track so much. I want to create all the musical setup myself. And then I'll just play over it with no specific goal in mind. Certainly from a technique perspective with the legato thing, and we talked about this before the stream, the biggest breakthrough I had was when I worked on a very specific thing, which was separating out the number of notes per string from the subdivision that I was playing. So triplets obviously works well with 3 notes per string, 16th notes works well with 2 or 4 note per string, but not that great with 3 note per string. And that was an extremely specific long-term practice thing.
Yeah.
And that made huge breakthroughs for lots of other areas of my playing. And I think it's the only time I've actually sat down and really worked in that way. And if I think back now, it seems like the best progress I ever made, or let's say the quickest progress I ever made. So yeah, I could see physically day to day the progress I ever made.
I suppose the other bit of wisdom I've learned is that, like, don't beat yourself up. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, if you don't get time to practice or whatever, or for me, say if I've been really short on time and I haven't been able to hustle any venues to get a gig, then my mindset is, even if I have only time to send one email or make one contact on Facebook or whatever, then I've ticked that box. So my thing is, I want to do, no matter how small the thing is, I want to do one thing each day that gets me close to the goal. And so for me, it's like that technical thing, my touring thing, and the album thing. And all I'm looking to do is to do one thing in each of those three areas every day to get me closer. So I'm not beating myself up, but there is a truth in that. There's something about doing a little thing every day, a focused thing, that really helps you cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So that's my top tip.
No, I think it's a really good piece of wisdom, as you put it. I think it's incredibly easy with this instrument and any instrument to become totally overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that you could practice.
Yeah.
Because even if you look at it like you could practice technique and that's overwhelming, then you've got to practice improvisation and that's overwhelming. Put the two together, it becomes unbelievably overwhelming. And how do you get over that? Now, one thing, you're being accosted by the cat now.
Story of my life.
Yeah, you have a history of bad things happening
Just
with
don't
cats.
piss
So
on anything I own. and we'll be friends.
she's pretty good for that, to be honest. Yeah, just, this idea of, you said something really interesting as well, which was that for this year, now there's two really interesting time frames here. So you said, for this year I'm concentrating on playing triplets, rock triplets.
Yeah.
So actually what he's talking about, if anybody's not sure, is that kind of shuffle feel. You look like you're about to demo. I was going to demo.
Oh, sorry.
It's alright.
Did I just poke you in my wallet?
Yeah, right in the cap.
So if I give you a pulse, what would be? Thank you for following whoever that was. I can't see, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys. I'll sort that out for the next stream. Thank you so much for following.
That kind of thing.
And what's the technique there? That pull.
Yeah. See, I lost it there. So it's that kind of style, but I'm trying to get to 250 BPM. So the thing is in any group of three, I only pick twice. So that's my kind of secret. So if I was just ascending, it'd be, this is the Ingve thing, and then well, I'm picking three times there. And there's just like different groups. So I'm like looking at if I start my first finger, the combinations are either go, or if I start my second finger, it'd be. But what I'm not doing is just practicing the one pattern. I'm trying really hard to mix them all up. And what happens with playing the triplet thing is whenever you do a turnaround, so you get to the top of the scale, and you come back down, you end up with the wrong number of notes for a triplet. So what I do, it might be, and then that brings it back round.
So you stay with a group of three. See, what's interesting about this is
it's to keep the swing feel like it's to keep the that
so
thing
so
going
we have maybe it's quite interesting because we've talked about this before, not recently but a while ago. The way I practice stuff like that is it did come up a little bit before, is I practice stuff like that incredibly slowly, and I just rely on, this is not the word that I would normally use, but I rely on a little bit of faith that the technique will sort itself out, because the brain has got enough time to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, for me, it becomes, and this is like a bolt onto what you're saying. It's a different way of looking at it, because what you're doing is you're taking sort of a more scientific and studied approach. You're saying,
who would have thought? It's like role reversal. It's like, yeah.
I didn't want to say it.
Yeah. The guy who's approachedly playing guitar is like falling down the stairs and landing on his feet.
Amazing.
Takes the scientific. I see. I've turned over a new leaf.
But it kind of is, because what you're doing, like Dave's written out, and it's such a sensible way of doing it. You've written out a lot of the alternatives that you can figure out for how it would cross the string, where the first note of each triplet would lie, what picking pattern it would be, so on and so forth.
So we're out of scenarios, haven't you? Really?
Yeah, so each scenario that could arise, and then you basically practice them and you write licks that involve them all.
Yeah, and
so
then
you develop the ability to do it.
And the idea is like by sheer repetition, I'll assimilate it into my vocabulary, so it becomes second nature. Like with everything I do with guitar, it's like you keep doing it until you can sort of do it. But this is like I'm trying to cut down the length of time by really practicing. Like when I hit a problem of like, oh, there's a stumble, I don't keep smashing away. I like go, all right, what happened there? Stop the metronome. Have a look at what it is. Right, what's the problem there?
Thank you for joining the stream. Can't see who you are, but thank you for joining the stream.
So it's a really hard way to practice as well, because you've really like. So the only thing that I do differently, like you say, you practice super slow, which I do. But the other thing is I like go to about as fast as I can get it, and then when I hit a problem, because the thing is, if it's really slow with this, I can kind of do it. So the problem is I try and find out what happens where when I trip up, what's thing. So I play it really fast, and then I think, look, right, there's a problem there. Then I slow it right down.
Okay, so it's a little bit different to that. So what I'm trying to do when I'm practicing it, probably best to do this with a match. I don't know if you can provide
yeah.
if that's all right. So if you're doing triplets, it's like dega da dega da dega da. Oh no, I'm doing dega da da. I'm doing 16th note.
Yeah, do you want me to do twice faster?
Yeah, because it feels too slow. Dega da dega da dega da dega da dega da dega da. So that's the triplet feel. What I would do, we'll come back to that in a second, because I just want to explain it a second. Is I might do it slower than that. I won't do it slower than that now, but I'm not playing. I'm doing it slow enough that, because I'm doing it from an improvisational perspective as well, which you are as well. Yeah. That's the goal. But I'm trying to be as obtuse about it as possible. So I'm trying to set up scenarios for myself that are going to cause issues. Right. So I'm just literally playing anywhere within a particular key. So if I've got E, okay, if you provide the metronome. Sounds like Steve Vai for some reason. Lydian. Now that I would do initially like this. If I've got da 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 da. Ignore the delay. Da da da. Let me turn that off. I can't reach it. Thank you very much. So if I've got. So I'm just picking notes, not that note.
Yeah.
But I would do this for hours, because the way I end up sort of thinking about this is, if I do that at a tempo that is so comfortable for me that I'm totally in control of the note choice, and the technique becomes second nature. So I'm not preparing the technique beforehand. It's probably going to screw up a little bit, but it's so slow that I've got the time to kind of, my hand is not stressed, the right hand.
Yeah.
So eventually, after doing that for a long time, now this might end up being a slower way of doing it than yours, I don't know. It's just an alternative, that's what I'm saying. So that when you speed it up, the right hand is taking care of itself, because you never thought about that. Does that make sense?
Could it be that maybe like something that you will be doing is perhaps being slightly more conscious of the note choice, and that would affect how fast you could possibly go and how quickly?
Yeah.
Because I know with like being, if you're choosing, if you're, I don't know exactly how you think about it, Dave, we haven't really talked about it, but if you're thinking of an interval, say, then that can be, certainly if it can be a bit harder to begin with.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So-
This is a purely pentatonic kind of.
And the
You're
rock.
coming from
kind
more
of
of
the
a
rock.
Yeah, so mine is like,
So that's you're going to be when you're
Yeah,
doing it
yeah.
slow.
it's
you're
like
gonna
river
be-
dance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thinking of like what the note choices, and that adds an extra layer of thinking time, I guess.
I suppose what I'm thinking is, if I can do this first, then I'll try that. If you know what I mean. So because the picking
technique thing.
thing,
So I
the
think-
picking thing is so important for me in terms of what I'm trying to achieve and the style I'm trying to do. Basically, I've written a tune that is a boogie at 250, and I currently can't play it. So I'm working and I've given myself a year to get my chops together. After I've done that, I might look at the legato thing, because I love the stuff you do, Brett Garsed, all those guys that can do that stuff. But it's almost, I feel like I need to iron out my time field with this, which seems a bit more specific. If you know what I mean?
Sorry.
So sorry, I was just thinking this might be like when you talk about technique. Maybe there's slightly different definition in that you would incorporate note choice into the technique.
Yeah, probably.
Where and I think that might be because a lot of guitar players, when they think technique, think literally the physical mechanics, and that is true. But I think it's some of the things that you've done in terms of lessons and things you come across as though note choice is a part of that. So and maybe that's
Because if you're not necessarily like I guess the way you'll end up with the technique is that you'll have initially, after you practice this, is you'll have a set of parameters or a set of things that are achievable that you can mix up.
Yeah. So
But then it will become freer.
So already I'm starting to feel like that I can play those constant triplets at tempos that previously I'd
Yeah, and it
and
sounded
kind of
chuffing awesome when you were doing it earlier on.
Oh, thanks, man.
Wicked, yeah.
So, but I'm already finding I'm more confident to execute ideas that are coming into my head, because quite often the thing I'll do is I'll do the traditional thing. So start with a bend, and then once I get into the tempo, I'll try a few things, and then I'll do the typical rock thing, which is I've got to get from here to here, and I don't care how many notes I cram in that gap. All I have to worry about is the first note and the last note.
Right.
And I'm trying to. I'll still end up doing that because I actually quite like the sound, the excitement of doing that. But then when I get into stricter tempo, higher tempos, I feel like I'm dropping off the beat, and it sounds rubbish. So I hate that. So that's why I focus on it. Just
Also, it's a different thing because the technique can also be, if you take, again, legato, because it's the only thing I'm good at, technique can become this.
Yeah.
Where there's no conception of what the subdivision is or what the time is. I mean, I talk about this all the time. And that can be a thing where it's technique, and that then becomes...
Yeah.
which is cool.
Which is cool, absolutely. And it happens
different.
hugely with tapping. So all of these... which I can't do. All that stuff becomes
We do it now.
start here and then start. Yeah, you two
No,
got to do
nothing.
that. Start. We'll do them all in unison, a semitone below each other. Start here, finish here. Who cares where it finishes? Just physically, who cares where it starts and finishes rhythmically? People don't care about it. But then what you're doing is you're taking an extremely specific subdivision,
Yeah.
and the phrases you can't. Usually, especially with the style that you're playing, you can't finish a phrase on the second triplet of the beat. It has to resolve rhythmically properly.
Yeah.
Now, were you to, if you were, say, a fusion guy or whatever, or were you to then create a tune that purposely finished on the second triplet of the beat, that would be cool, but that's not what the aim is. The aim is to be able to round it off and finish the phrase at a particular point, at which point, if you get lost, or if you get stuck, or if the triplet becomes too long or too short, which is very easy to do,
Yeah.
your phrase is screwed.
Yeah,
So it's got
yeah,
different
so-
parameters around it, this technique.
I think the thing is, what you're talking about is how I got to this point is finding a technique and practicing it until I can play it as fast as possible. And I've been pretty lazy at looking at a time feel aspect, and I've realised that it's kind of you waste your practice time by doing that. Whereas really zoning in on your time feel and executing certain things within a tempo frame is a lot harder work, but a lot more kind of rewarding. Because
Yeah, it's a better musical skill.
yeah, Yeah, so and I think most guitarists would be like me in terms of the way they've got, like I can do sweep picking so fast, or I can do
Thank you for joining the stream, anonymous person. I've got to sort that out. In fact, while you're talking, I'll see if I can sort that out.
So
what you mentioned there about practice time, this is just a question that popped in my head. You said like wasting your practice time. Do you find that having obviously like 2 kids and a family and stuff and all the other stuff you have to do, do you find that your practice time is quite like precious? But you like if you
I'm really lucky in that I have 3 days a week pretty much where I'm at home, and in those 3 days that's where I do a lot of the music writing and stuff like that. So it's not like I'm holding down like an office job and then I've got to cram in the practice. But one thing I do try fairly hard to do is to only do it when the family are around. I don't sit around with well, they might disagree, not that they're watching, but
I think Heather and I had the conversation yesterday.
Yeah. Shut up, baby. But I think that goes back to the thing I was saying before. It's like practicing smart. If you just have one thing, and I think it will impact all of my playing. Even though I'm focused on that one technical aspect, I'm really already feeling like my whole guitar playing is coming up.
Absolutely.
So it goes back to saying, I think don't beat yourself up, man. If you can't cram 2 hours in, then one, just had a quick thought. Again, analogy from running. One thing I do with my running is that I have all my trainers and all my tracksuit and stuff in a box, and I run through fields so it all gets muddy. At the end of that session, I just chuck it all back in the box. But what that means is all my stuff, like my headphones, my podcast, it's all in one place, and it's the same for my guitar practicing. Like I have a corner set up, my amp, my guitar, my lead, it's all plugged in, my computer, it's all set up, ready to go, so that when I do the practice, it's like literally right, bang, go, 10-15 minutes, it's all ready. Like that is a top tip, to have a space, a place, and have your gear ready, because sometimes just getting your guitar out of the case, finding your lead.
I tend to not. I don't know why. I just kind of walk past, don't pick it up, or do something
else. Do you guys keep your guitars in their cases?
No, I mean, like, if I'm gigging and stuff and they're all away, but if there's a guitar out, even if like
you need a guitar tray.
Well, yeah, the mighty Shredwood.
But there is something to be said about having all your stuff ready to go, especially in the morning when you've got a million things, like,
Totally.
So
it's just easy to go, just do, like if you walk past a bit of food that's all cut up, you're like, just have a bit, because it's done. It's like, just grab a bit of that. But if everything's set up, it's like,
good old food analogy.
I'll just sit down and have just sit down and practice a bit, because it's just there. You don't have to go, right, well, I need to turn this on, I need to get this out, I need to plug this in.
I've we haven't talked about this, but I've done something similar in that I've got sort of one main goal for this year, and it's and that's just like sort of two note comp.
You've done it.
Have I?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's coming on.
That's my goal for this year.
And so just I'm not really just in terms of practice. It's just trying to be freer with comping and it's going to be, and that is, I'm not going to say it's just only this year. I mean, it's going to take forever, but it is going to be the thing that I'm sort of focusing on the most, and hopefully that will pay off. So
yeah, and we've been doing not loads of jams, but we've had quite a few jams where maybe next time we could, with the pressure of liveness, maybe kind of demonstrate a couple of things. And have a jam and kind of just try a few things out, because it's the thing I like about it is it's always a mental challenge, but when it's right, it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, it's strange how the kind of, this is one of the topics I think for the relaunch. I don't want to go too far into it, but it's almost like sort of learning to reward yourself in different ways, or learning to get a kick from doing different things. Like when I was much younger, I'd get really excited by I was talking about the other day about learning the juice tapping thing, and it's like, really, really thrilling. But
I wonder what it is that not that we're all dead inside, but like when you like sort of 15, 16, like when you get really excited about that kind of stuff, but then something changes as you get older. Maybe it's because if you're doing it as a job and stuff like that.
I think it's just the amount of effort is so much greater. And you don't have as much time. I think.
For what? Sorry, what?
Like that kind of that fire and excitement when you're younger and you're like, oh man, I want to really learn this song or really learn this riff or whatever, and you're just
And now
absolutely just hungry for it.
Now we're dead inside.
Well,
No, but I think I still
Well,
have
I
some
think
of that, but it's it's sort of like being channeled into something different now. So it's like,
Yeah.
so just doing like 2 notes and trying to think about, being like satisfied, rewarded mentally and chemicals in my brain when I
enjoying the
managed
journey.
to choose those 2 correct notes.
There's a little bit more to it as well, and this is kind of going slightly off topic, but when you were 15 or 16, you had no... Like, when was the last time that you picked up the guitar or played a video game or did anything like that that's not generally considered by society to be a kind of a traditional way of kind of having a career or earning money or whatever, that you didn't feel slightly guilty?
it didn't sound like a traditional waste of time.
Like, obviously you don't always feel guilty when you pick up the guitar, obviously, because it is all of us do that for a job.
Yeah.
But when you're 15, none of that ever comes into your mind. You've got no financial issues, you've got nothing. So you sit down and the only thing you have to care about, you're allowed mentally, and I don't mean by society, I'm not trying to make this big thing about societal tropes or anything.
Yeah.
You're allowed to sit down and just focus on that one thing, and life doesn't matter, it doesn't change. It doesn't
Do you
affect
think that's
anything
what
else
it
in your
is,
life.
though? I think.
I think it's one of the things.
I think when you're 15, 16, your learning curve is so massive, and you haven't been doing it for that long. When you get into your sort of, for me now, approaching my 40s, and I haven't massively improved in 10 years, then you think, oh well, that's it then, and so I'm really excited about this practicing thing in a way that, like I was when I was 15. I'm really excited about the new album that I'm writing and really into it. So I'm definitely getting that back. But I think it's just like all of a sudden it's like going, I thought playing this kind of thing was out of reach for me, and I was just like, right, well, I'm not going to be able to do it. I pretty much can do the stuff as a guitar player, and you kind of settle, don't you? And all of a sudden getting that thing, hey, I could be like so much better by the end of 2016, as I'm really excited by that. And I think it's just trying to get that back. It's when it's like the hope, isn't it? All of a sudden you think, because you have to, when you reach a certain standard to get better, the work you have to put in is extraordinarily more than when you're 15, 16, you're playing a few power chords and don't you think?
It's different. I mean, I think for me it's been like a different reward system. So it's trying to find enjoyment from the things where and I don't know if you can force this or not. Maybe it just happens. But
do you think as an adult it's just more that we don't enjoy process of stuff, we don't enjoy the journey, but you're always looking at the destination?
I don't think it's that you don't. When you're 15, you don't think about the process. There is no process. You just do it a lot. Now I can see. Oh, Alicia's, thank you so much for joining the stream. I'm sorry to all the other guys who followed, and I couldn't actually say who you were. I apologise. I think you just don't think about. Well, I didn't think about the process when I was 15. I just played hours and hours and hours, and the process was put Passion and Warfare on, open the book, learn the stuff, and then sit for hours. It's a little bit like, I remember when my sister was, so there's a 6-year gap between us, so when she was maybe about 7 or 8, she would watch the same film over and over and over again, and I would sit there thinking, how can you've seen this, you know what's going to happen.
Like speaking along with the
Where's the
dialogue.
entertainment in this? You know what's going to happen, and you've seen it so many times. But I would sit down and play along with Passion and Warfare. I did it hundreds of times and never got bored once. I did it with Awake, I did it with Images and Words, I did it with all of these things. And that process, I never thought once. It was only when I reached the age of 17 where I was thinking about maybe I want to do this as a degree, or I want to study music theory. Suddenly it started, the goalpost shift, and I was like, okay, well, there's things I have to learn now. And I think as soon as the parameters change, where you go, okay, now I'm going to learn to play jazz, and now I have to learn music theory, I have to learn how to have a good time feel, I have to learn these things, and somebody is dictating you, and it's not a bad thing by the way, but somebody's dictating, going, okay, well the next thing to do is this, and you have to go and learn it. You become super aware of the process that you're going through, and as that gets exponentially harder and you become more aware of how hard it is, some of the magic and the enjoyment inevitably drips away. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way it is. You do anything like that and it's gonna start doing that.
I don't know if the guys watching subscribe to the Cracking the Code stuff. I'm signed up to the Masters of Mechanics thing, Cracking the Code, that Troy Grady does. And this month it's all about practicing. And so I've come across a website called Bulletproof Musician, which is all about practicing, and how some of the top performers in the world, a lot of the practice they do that gives the best results is actually, they don't describe it as enjoyable, but it's just this process where they just really get into the details. Really interesting. There's loads of free blogs, so if you have time, drop by the Bulletproof Musician website. I'm guaranteed you're going to find some really interesting stuff about practicing, discipline.
Like the psychology of practice.
Psychology, yeah, psychology.
What is it? Bulletproof?
The Bulletproof Musician. I can't exactly remember if you Google that, it'll come up. But there's loads of stuff about like tackling stage nerves, like your identity as a performer, dealing with what other people think and all those worries and stuff like that. So it's really worth checking out. There's I mean, obviously he wants you to sign up, but there's loads of free stuff that's worth checking out. There really. Yeah, I've been looking into that this week, so yeah, check it out.
Okay, I'm going to post it in the chat, guys. So
probably nearly our hour as well.
Yeah, Mindy Glow Dave, that's an epic username. It's a bit like when you learn how a magic trick is done. Once you learn the process, the magic isn't gone; it just transfers, i.e., the joy you can give to other people when you do it. I mean, there is still a huge amount of joy in practicing, and like you were saying, when we jam. It's interesting when we jam because we always.
It's interesting as well.
we always. It's a bit like, apart from when we played like Mercy Mercy and the Chicken and stuff, which is a different challenge. When we always pick really difficult tunes to play, and we always have, like, you'll have parameters that you're trying to do, and so on and so forth. And
so I mean, it's almost. I mean, it's a personal thing, but it's almost a level playing field then, because you're trying to do what you're trying to do, and then obviously you'll have your things. It's not like just picking a tune that one person knows, one person doesn't, because that happens a lot with jams. And regardless of how good you are as a musician, if someone else knows a tune and you don't, you just end up looking like an idiot a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's a really.
You don't know the changes or something. Or,
it's a really interesting thing, because when your job as a musician was to practice to have nice vibrato on your bends, life was a nice, easy. It wasn't easy to do, but you knew what the goal was.
Yeah.
And then you get all of that stuff down to the point where you can function as a musician. And then suddenly it's like, okay, what do I practice now?
So how do you do that? How do you decide? The reason I've picked this thing is because I'm like thinking I need to improve my time feel. I've done a few jams and thought I really sucked, so I want to sort it out. But also for me, the goal is, I've written a song and I need to be able to play it live convincingly. So for me, but people ask me, how do you pick what you're going to work on? And I don't know how to answer that. Do you guys have any thoughts on?
I struggle with teaching time feel, or just anything with that kind of. If someone doesn't, when you go through all the obvious things, if someone's struggling with, and I'm talking about teaching very much beginner people. So, I do struggle sometimes with. So I can't.
But what about you personally though? Like, how do you pick something? What's made you pick the comping thing, for example?
Because I suck at it.
But that's it. But there's loads of things that you could have picked.
Because when I'm sort of comping like jazz stuff, I've got very set ways of doing it with shapes. Very much like, because when I improvise, when I'm soloing, I don't think hardly of any scale shapes at all. It's all sort of notes and intervals. But when I'm playing chords, it was definitely shapes.
But it's not just that though, is it? Because, like, I'm going to make a presumption here, so this may be completely wrong, but you probably suck at flamenco guitar, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't pick flamenco guitar to practice because you sucked at it. I would imagine that I'm putting words in your mouth. You picked comping because, or not just comping, but a very improvisational level of comping and an interesting way of comping, because
it just excites me.
Let's say you sucked at it, and yes, exactly. On top of that, it really interested you, and you liked the idea of it.
Yeah, I think it's because when I started being able to play over changes, and it's just the natural. I think it's just the extension of that. Then it's because I was thinking, well, this is sounding good. I'm enjoying this. It's exciting. You can stick no matter, even if they're quite hard things in front of me, and I can sort of relatively fluff my way through. And that was kind of exciting. And then as I've gotten better at the more basic things, then I just want to be able to do 2 notes, I think. And that's where, but I hadn't even, that concept until we talked about this and you suggested this, the idea of just treating comping in the same, it's just soloing but with more than one note. And that's like so bleeding obvious, but I didn't know. Chuffing obvious.
The only reason I've been saying this stuff is just like against the backdrop of of guys like Guthrie, Govan, and perceived guys who you think, wow, these guys can play anything. Therefore, the thing we should all do is be able to play everything. And I'm almost like saying, I actually think the opposite is true. It's like focusing on doing, a certain thing really well. It's like I thought I wanted to be a jazz fusion player when I went to the Guitar Institute, and after doing 6 months there, I was like, actually no, that isn't going to be the thing I'm going to focus on. I appreciate it. I can, I understand the scales. I understand the theory of it, but I made a conscious decision. That's not a road I'm going to go down, and I think there's something to be said for that.
See, we're getting into a whole nother discussion here, but this is why, and I think
because you can, like, you're an interesting example. You can really alternate pick actually, but you've really focused on legato. You'd say, oh, I'm not a great picker, but you're actually better alternate picker than quite a lot, like most people. But you've focused on that.
But again, it's turned,
and that's really awesome. But that gives you your kind of identity. Like, you have narrowed it.
Did you watch Sherlock? Because there's one little line, and somebody says to him, oh man, you know everything, and he goes, don't be preposterous, I don't know everything, I'm a specialist, I just know this stuff. And it's kind of the same thing. You might be perceived to know loads and loads of stuff, but it's like, no, I'm specialised in this.
So this links into what you just said, and I'm sure you don't actually think this, but you were saying Guthrie can play anything. Well, of course that's not true, because if you put, so for Guthrie to play anything, if you put him next to Julian Lage, for instance, now this is like comparing apples and oranges. This is not
a better
somebody here, because as soon as you do any of this, somebody goes, well, wait a minute, because Guthrie's the greatest guitar player ever lived. Now, that's fine if you think that. Now, I'm not trying to compare on levels, but in terms of Guthrie can play anything, it's ridiculous, because if you stick him next to Julian Lage is a completely different beast, and Guthrie would never even himself say he could approach that. The perception is based on somebody's level of knowledge of what goes into a particular style. So, for instance, Dan's Western Swing vocabulary knowledge is entirely more knowledgeable, or more of a higher level of vocabulary than Guthrie would be. But Guthrie understands and can function within that style because he has knowledge of country and because X, Y, and Z, for instance.
It's one of those, if you're free enough on the instrument and you've got that ability to know sort of what you're going to play before you play it, and you know what the vocabulary sort of sounds like, you can probably do a good impression of a lot of things.
But I suppose what I'm talking about is like putting yourself under that kind of pressure of what shall I do? Well, I need to do everything. And I just think, actually, that's probably not a helpful place to start.
What do you want to do? If you can first of all, like, not think what you have to do, but maybe just find what it is that excites you at that moment and then work on that.
This is why. And probably this will probably be the last kind of point we make, because we'll run over otherwise.
And
massively.
then we'll have a big fight once the cameras go off and smash the balls.
This is why this time for young guitar players is the most amazing time ever to be a young guitar player in terms of learning, and also quite possibly the worst as well, because when we were younger, and I don't want to make us all sound like old men, but the internet when I first started playing was a very, like, you had dial-up. There was no way you could watch videos. YouTube didn't exist, so on and so forth. You would buy an album and you would assimilate that album like the Borg, and basically you would learn every single note of that one album, and that was the focus, and you didn't even think about the focus, you just did it. Whereas now, these guys, in an amazing way, have a new player every day that they're listening to, playing all kinds of insane techniques over changes, which means that the level that they want to acquire is massively higher.
Yeah.
But their focus is like, dunk, 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 dunk. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, you will find like young players who sound incredible at very specific things that can be very sporadic, and then a huge gap of knowledge or a huge swathe of stuff that they just have no idea about. So guys who can play incredibly fast legato runs or picking runs, or have amazing knowledge of like harmony or whatever. They can play, you know, any scale all over the fretboard in all 12 keys and move between those scales. If you ask them to play, sorry, why have I got nothing? I've got nothing at all. That's not good. I've killed my tone. There we go. If you ask them to play something you could actually rhythmically jam to, it's just a complete, there's nothing there.
That's the big one, isn't it?
That's the really big one.
Or sticking to
Time
a form.
feel for, or
Not
sticking to
trying
a form.
stick every
equivalent-
possible, you know.
Yeah, you see that all the
Right.
time. I can't, because I've never done any of that stuff, but like, why is it not just,
Yeah, it's like do the job. Play that, you know.
it seems to have an octave going as well, which is kind of cool. I like it.
Well, like you're like as a you know, somebody comping under someone else, your job is to make
what it
them
is.
sound good. Essentially,
Yeah.
it's to like give them something to boost what they're doing. It's not to try and put your best.
But then imagine
you know.
if your focus is like the first day you sit down, or maybe let's say the first 3 or 4 days, because it takes a while. The focus of what you're doing is to kind of, I don't know, get some crazy is to get that down, and then
What's the Michael Jackson song?
the second day your focus is, and then you do the John Petrucci, you know, whatever it is. At no point within that practice schedule, and then let's say you're going to do some tapping stuff, then you're going to learn your super Locrian scale. There's no time for.
Yeah, because I suppose we did all that when we were like so much younger before.
Desperate. What we should do is
Jam out or something.
except I'm way louder than you, because I want you to play
Yeah.
some triplet stuff.
But do you know what this is? It's the musical equivalent of when you go around to your grandma's at Christmas and they say, "Oh, play us a tune," and you're like,
Yes, please.
What? I don't know what you mean, but I can play this.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I could tell you many stories, although I won't tell you specifics, but many stories of sitting down and jamming with guys who are incredible players, you know, just ridiculous technique. And if I sat down with them and there was a backing track and all they had to do was whittle away, I would look like an idiot, because they can out-shred me any day of the week. But if you lose the backing track and you've suddenly got to play, like, even if it's something really simple, just a one chord vamp, and it's like, just
Yeah.
can see this turning into some dirty.
Anyway. I feel the need to be really immature and do some tapping.
Anyway,
Anyway, what we want to do.
This wasn't a proper one, this was just a stopgap.
so, yeah, it turns into, as Ryan S. Guitar put, it turns into a Guitar Centre jam. When he gets to the guitar players. So,
I think what we should do though is, because you mentioned what your thing is for the year, you mentioned pretty much what your thing is for the next year or so. Do you have like
yes, I do.
like a sort of guitar resolution? I'm sorry, there's not a pun in that.
Oh, I was hoping for a...
Uh,
Dan, you're so good at puns, I was hoping you need a bit more time to think.
Ah.
Yeah, my actual resolution, this might sound like a really
Shred,
stupid one, but
shred,
is to
shred,
make
shred,
my
shred, shred.
playing more beautiful, as in the nuances of the playing. So a little bit more like Alan Hines or Andy Timmons, so that there's less. What's the word? If I want to play an entire solo and not do any legato, at the moment I feel like I have to switch it on at least at once. Otherwise,
Take that box.
Otherwise, it's not being like a good solo. It's like, okay, well, there's nothing in there. That's the thing that makes it exciting. Whereas I want to be able to do, just in terms of the way the notes are shaped and the sound and the time feel, make it more, more appealing and more beautiful in terms of its sound. Not beautiful in like, I just want to, like, Andy Timmons is the guy.
Oh man, it's incredible.
Everything he plays just sounds.
Love Andy Timmons.
Like the idea of being able to plug straight into an amp with a cable, because I saw him do this at NAMM. Basically, Laney have a new amp out, which is the GHR series, which are really great amps. They're really good.
I'm gassing for the 50.
Yeah, me too. And I did a review of it for Guitar Instructor magazine and plugged straight into the amp, and I'm not good at that. I don't feel happy if I just plug straight into an amp. I like something. I don't like to go in dry, Dave. Andy Timmons plugged straight into this amp. It just sounded exactly like Andy Timmons, and this big crowd of people came around, and it's outrageous that a guy can create that much beauty from just this and a cable straight into an amp that he's never played before. And that amp's quite tight. It's not a spongy amp.
Yeah.
It can be if you set it up right,
Yeah.
but they were just fiddling with the controls, and he was playing, and it's just ridiculous. So I would like to get a little bit more of that into my playing. That's my goal. I've got to be honest, I haven't set a goal for 2016 through to 2017, but that's just my goal I'm going for now. That's what I'm concentrating on. Did you answer?
No. I think...
Do you want to play with Dolly Parton?
Yeah. I think, like, remember when we watched that Matt Monasteri, I think that's pronounced his name, video? You know the guy that was on the Fretboard Journal all the time? I'm listening to.
I am listening. Fretboard Journal. I'm just checking this out as well.
Yeah, you know the guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's just sat there just playing on his own, like with these.
But I can't remember his
sort of
name.
Matt Monasteri, I think his name is.
I think you introduced him to me, didn't you?
Yeah. And it's that thing of being quite sort of self-sufficient and in control, not necessarily in a super chord melody way, but being able to sit there and just play and be harmonically and melodically just in control. But part of that is to just know more songs as well. I kind of like that sort of I guess it's sort of like an old kind of romantic idea of just being able to turn up and just know tunes that guys are playing.
Yep.
And just being able to sit down and jam and do your thing and be yourself within whatever it is, if it's a standard or whatever, and just being able to get your way through it and
not go
be
to
unapologetically yourself within the song and not trying to be, not trying to be too clever or just being like really sort of melodic and knowing exactly where you are within the tune at all times.
Not turn up to a jam session and hope that they call one of the 3 tunes that you actually know.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
get really nervous if they don't.
yeah.
Is it in E? That's my question. Is it
It's
in E?
not in E, Dave. It's
not
in
in E.
G.
No!
Screwed. So, I believe that's an
That's
hour
it.
and 17 minutes. You've had.
Come
You
on.
owe us for 17 minutes, guys. Nice work. Stelios has found. Who the hell is that? Please tell me that's not. They found the emoticons.
That's it now.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
that's the name of
So that's your lot for today. As I say, in February we're not gonna. It's not gonna be like next week or anything. But in February we're gonna relaunch the show. It's gonna be a little bit different. This will be the front end. You'll have the Guitar Hour logo and stuff down there. But we're gonna have a little bit more slick production. So I've got to figure all that out. We're sort of getting there. And as I say, 6 shows per season with a little break in between to give us time to write the next 6. Very, very kind of, not scripted. That's not the right word. But we're going to have specific
features.
things.
It's going to be almost magazine-like, and then if we go out and film interviews,
Top
and
gear
stuff
for
as
guitar.
And playing as well. We'll be doing some playing, more playing.
Lots more playing.
Yeah.
So if you think of anything you'd like us to talk about, get on Facebook / The Guitar Hour?
The guitar.
Yeah.
Facebook.com. I sound like I don't know what the internet is. Facebook.com / The Guitar Hour. And give us some questions. You can do it on our personal Facebook pages as well, but it would be better on the Guitar Hour. If you've not done so, like that page on Facebook. And thanks so much for joining us, guys. We'll be back fairly soon. This will go up on Twitch if you missed any of it, and then later on I'll be uploading it to my YouTube channel. I guess at some point we should do a Guitar Hour YouTube channel, but we'll figure that all out later. And yes, we will see you next time, complete with theme tune, which will be exciting. See you later, guys. Thanks for all our new followers. See you soon. Goodbye.